So Paul is saying here, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife. You men that's for Paul, these same men, they're for Paul, they're for the Bible, but they're against this. See, they're picking and choosing what they want to follow. These women don't understand this. How can they be so gullible and so weak? You allow these men to get you in these situations? Let each woman have her own husband. Paul is clear here. Let the husband render to his wife the affections due to her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourself to fasting and praying and come together again. And the enemy does not attempt you because of your lack of self-control. Okay, all right. So we do have a problem of lack of self-control because we live in a sexually driven society. We grew up watching and looking at sexual images, whether you knew it or not. Listen, companies, we already know this. They attracted people with their sexual ads. All that stuff get into our subconsciousness and it just sits there. And when the time comes, it will blossom. The Most High know Edom did all of this. He knows this. He knows straight men. He know many straight men has a problem when it comes to females. It's a weakness. Can't have enough. You want to go in and out of this one and that one. You will lay down with a woman that's married to another man. No self-control. But I say this as a concession, not as a commandment. He don't say anything as a commandment. These people don't teach this. Not as a commandment. You shouldn't even be talking, giving people orders and telling them what to do. But it's not a commandment. Surely it's not. The Most High didn't say none of this stuff. But this is their man. This is the man they say we misunderstand. We misunderstand. You misunderstood what he was saying. His writings is too hard, too difficult for the unlearned to know. Yeah, right. But listen, if it's of the Most High, it's going to be clear. The Ruach is clear. The Ruach is understanding. It's not hard to understand. That's the enemy. For I wish that all men, and I brought this out before, I wish that all men were even as myself. Paul was unmarried. We know the story. We know what happened. He didn't want to be unmarried, but he was unmarried. So he wished all these men would be unmarried. All these men with multiple wives. And here we go reading Paul saying you should be unmarried as he was unmarried. But each one has its own gift. One in this man, another in that. But I say to the unmarried, watch this. I say to the unmarried and the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. Don't marry. This ain't hard to understand, people. His letters are not hard to understand. He used double talk. He talk all over the place. He'd be on this matter, and then he's on that subject. Stick with one subject. He can't do it. Be straightforward. He can't do it. It is good for them to remain even as I am. He want these unmarried and the widows to stay unmarried. But if you cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. This is your man. 1 Timothy 3:2. Here is one that he called bishops. We got many in the Hebrew Israelite movement. They call themselves bishop. They must be blameless. Here are your leaders. The husband of one wife. You have multiple wives. You can't be no leader, according to Paul. Temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior, hospitable, able to teach, the husband of one wife. Did Paul say it again? First Timothy 3:12. Deacons, we got people, since they following Paul, they have apostles, they have deacons, they have elders, they have bishops, they have all these titles. Now we got prophets. Let deacons be the husband of one wife. These are no more than what you call rulers in groups. That's all. This deacon is. He's a ruler of people. He got people under him. You know how the church was ran. We had deacons over us in different auxiliaries. That deacon was responsible for this group. That deacon go to the pastor for the group. When there's an issue or something, that deacon take care of it. If it's a matter he couldn't handle, that's when he would go to the pastor. They keep stuff away from the pastor. Y'all know how this ran. This is a leader. And Paul is saying leaders should be leaders, the husband of one wife. One wife. See, they don't agree with Paul. Well, come on now. You don't agree with Paul when it comes to this. That means you are a hypocrite. I got to say it. You are a hypocrite. Christians are hypocrites. Hebrew Israelites are hypocrites. Wicked to the core. Enemies of the Father. And the righteous will stand up and say something. And then there should be a warning that go out to these women. Titus 1:6. If a man is blameless, if you, according to Paul, according to the Bible, the husband of one wife. We keep seeing this over and over and over. The husband of one wife. Oh, we don't want to talk about this. We don't want to have anything to do with this. Now understand, these men that are doing this, of course, they're feeling the desires. They're fulfilling the desires of their flesh openly. This is something they've always wanted to do, but they're not going to do it according to Scripture. And the women that's under them, these women, they're going to go down with these men and this wickedness. So what's the truth of the matter? All right, now you need the truth of the matter. When it came to the men that had multiple wives, number one, look at Abraham. Abraham was married to Sarah. All right, we know this. Sarah couldn't have children. She was barren. Years went by. Sarah knew the promise. So Sarah said, in order for me to get this promise, I can't get pregnant. So go into Hagar. And he did. And she conceived. But the father he wanted this seed to come from Sarah. And that's why that word had to come to them. And sure enough, Sarah ended up having birth when she thought she couldn't. So this was one of the reasons that they end up with multiple wives. He was with Sarah. They sent Hagar off because of the problems with the sons, Ishmael and Yitzchak. There was a problem. She got sent off. He was still with one wife. Then he married another after Sarah died. Had children by her, Keturah. We know the story. Yaakov was tricked into his wives. He wanted Rachel. The father gave Laban secretly. He was upset. Once you go into her, she's your wife. Now you got to take care of her. Here's another situation. Of course, the father, he looks out for widows. When our men went to war, we lost men in war. And this is why it's in Quran also. This particular reason, it goes with Quran. Men were lost in war. There were more women than men. And so it was allowed that the man could go into another one because she didn't have a husband. The Most High cares for widows. He does not want women unmarried. Paul does. The enemy does. He wants you to be married. So if she was a widow, she had children, another man could take her that he already had a wife. It was permissible. That brings me to my point. In the wilderness, after the people get Kadash, after the people get pure Torah, there will be women that don't have husbands. And it will be permissible for these women to end up with another in the wilderness, not before. Why is this? He doesn't want her to be alone. Listen, Edom want these women alone. That's why he set up where they can get sue the man, sue him, child support, alimony, and live on your own. Now, I'm giving you checks and he's giving you checks. You're getting checks for your kids. Get your own home. You don't need a man. And these women, they believe Edom's lie. No, I don't need a man. And inside, they tore up from the floor up, wanting a man. That if this woman is right, is she straight? Her desire is for a man. They can lie to themselves all day long, but this is their desire. In the wilderness, it will not be about lust. Seeds will be preserved. Of course, another example, a man taking on another wife in Torah. And I teach this. My sons know this. My righteous sons know this. I've taught them. You may have to, we went in Torah, you may have to do the duty of your brother. What does that mean? If you know Torah, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know Torah, you have no idea what in the world he's talking about. The duty of the brother is this. The brother died. He was married. The wife had no children. She needs someone, the brother that's living, to go into her so that she could preserve his seed. Multiple wives. Why is our men doing it today? Why? Because they want more than one wife. That's not the reason. Listen, the day we living in, I'm married to one wife for over 30 years. Over 30 years now. One. I don't want another wife. Another point. He said the poor would inherit the earth. The meek and the poor. In order to have multiple wives, you got to be rich. You got to have enough money to keep the bills up on 2 homes if you have 2 wives. 3 homes if you have 3 wives. If you got that much money, you ain't the poor and you not going into the wilderness or the kingdom. You can forget it. You see how people too poor. We can barely come out. We can barely sustain ourselves over here. Then we get over here, you got to work. We don't have money to sit tight. We got to work. So you know we ain't got enough money to be married the right way, keeping up these homes. So this is the truth about multiple wives. This is why they did it. It wasn't because they can, I can have more than one wife. These men talking about now I can have more than one wife, and they go out and get another wife. Women, you've been warned. The Most High don't want you in these wicked relationships. You already have a child. You can get your own husband. And you share it. You ask yourself a question. Would your man share you? Would he share? Would you share? Would he share his wife with another man? They expect you to do something they would never, ever do. And then you do it. So the Father's saying, remove yourself from these situations if you are in these situations. Shalom.